All right, so I hope everybody enjoyed the little piano intro and stuff. Just trying to do something more different, a little bit more different, and just kind of also bring in um, more of my music, a little bit more of my playing. It's kind of hard because I don't really see myself as a musician anymore the way I used to over the decades. I'm really more of a composer and a producer. So for me, it's kind of weird because I see all these musicians online and stuff like, playing and rocking and jamming, and I just don't play like that anymore. So for me to sit here and do that, it's like, but I want to play a little something because I can play a little something. So I figured just play like a little piano introduction type thing before I head into this story. And first, I hope everybody really enjoyed the Chace episodes, the 4-part series episode. That was a long and daunting process for me. It really was, especially after May 17th, after I had the whole anger and trauma release and finally mourned the loss of my band. Like right after that, I just wasn't in it anymore. So it was a struggle to get it going. So I finally got it going, and put it out a few weeks ago, as you guys know. I think it was last month. I got it out finally. And at this point, I look back on I'm just like underwhelmed by the whole thing at this point. But it's fine. That's a good thing. That's a healing process for me. That means I finally have some type of inner peace, about what happened to my band. And now it's time to move forward to bigger, better things. But I do want to go back and tell this story. We know back in the day it was about going back in the day and telling my stories growing up as a musician and stuff in New York City here. Well, not New York City, where I am now, but in Queens and in Long Island, and family life and what it was like for me back in those years as a child in the 60s and 70s, and growing up and becoming a musician and a composer and a producer of music and all that kind of fun stuff, right? So I have a story that also happened, it must have been, I guess, 1983 probably. I think 83. So as many of you know, in 1981 I began putting my band Chace together, right? But I was always bumming money off of my dad. Hey dad, can I borrow $5? Hey dad, can I borrow $5? Dad, can I borrow the car? Can I borrow $5? I want to take Tracy to a movie. Can I borrow $5? And one day he turned around and said, hey, stop asking for money. Get a job. You're going to be 19 soon. Get a damn job. Same thing I tell my son now. Same thing I tell Marcus now. Get a job, dude. Get a job. Leave me alone. Back up out my pockets, right? So that pissed me off when he said that. Why? That's my own ego, but it did. I said, I'll show you. I'll get a job. So I start looking for a job. I go to this fast food restaurant called Blimpie's. Many of you guys might know it's really a popular place here in the New York tri-state area. I don't know about the rest of the country, but Blimpie's, they make these big Subway sandwiches, heroes, and some folks, I guess, call them, not Subways, they call them something else, hoagies. There you go, hoagies. I don't know why, but they do, right? And I used to go to Blimpie's so much. I would always say I need to own stock in Blimpie's because I used to eat so many Blimpie sandwiches, usually ham and tuna fish, and I had a very special way I'd ask them to make it. I want a whole, give me the full roll, put this much ham on it, this much tomato, 2 slices of very, very thin tomato on it, a dash of pepper, no salt, more oil than vinegar, no lettuce, and very thinly sliced light onions. Is how I like my sandwiches back in those days. Still do to this day. Whenever I eat that, I typically don't eat it, but every now and then I'll either go there or I'll make myself a sandwich here, and I'll make it that way, right? Okay, so I applied for this job at Blimpie's. They said they'll let me know in a couple of days. And then I went and applied to this job at Abraham and Strauss, aka A&S. And you folks heard me talk about A&S many a time because I have good goblin stories from A&S. Well, this is another A&S story. And if my friend Rhea and if my friend Walter are listening, they may not know this one because I think this may have happened before I met them, before they started working at the store. I don't remember. That's how long ago this was. And this was 83, so I was also, in in the hype of Chace and what we were doing with our music at the time and stuff, right? And this is right before the big crash. So what was interesting, I applied for A&S and I applied for Blimpies for both stores, okay, for both stores. And I'm waiting for one of them to call me back. You know, back in the day, you had to get the phone call. You know, there was no email, there was no internet, there was no texting. You had to wait for that phone call for someone to call you back, say, hey, you got the job. Fine. Blimpies called back first and said, hey, you got the job. I was like, oh, man, I really don't want to work at Blimpies. I just want to eat there. I don't want to work there, but fine, I got to get a job to shut daddy up and let me just get the job and whatever. I said, okay, I'll take the job. Can you come in tomorrow for orientation? I said, okay, fine. So I come in for orientation and I go through the whole 8-hour orientation process and I go back home after that. But when I get back home, A&S called me. A woman by the name of Mrs. May, Joan May. She called me. Is this David? Yes, this it is. Hi, David. This is Mrs. May from Abraham and Strauss. We met the other day when I interviewed you. I said, oh, yes, Mrs. May, how are you doing? I'm just fine. Listen, this call to say I want to offer you the job. You know, come on in, we can get started. Oh, I said, okay, Mrs. May, I was happy as hell. So the job at A&S, that job was working in the fur vault, fur storage. Now, I knew about furs because my grandmother had tons of fur. She had these long fur coats, mink coats, fur scarves. I mean, my grandmother and my grandfather were pretty well off. They were pretty well to do, you know, and so she had all this fur stuff. So I would, every now and then, I would take one of my grandmother's fur coats for her up to A&S and put it in fur storage, okay? Never thought I'd ever be working there, but every now and then I would do that and come back home and give her the ticket, and she'd have the ticket, and she would keep her fur in storage during the summer months so that it doesn't rot, basically, right? Okay, so I get the job at A&S. I go back to Blimpies and say, sayonara, I'm not gonna work here. I didn't want to work there from Jump Street, but I hadn't gotten the call from A&S yet, so I was taking the job. But being I got the call from A&S, that's where I really wanted to work if I had to get a job. Another reason is because A&S, they had a piano department there, right? It was the fur vault, the piano department where they had big grand pianos and baby grand pianos and electric pianos there and stuff like that. And then next to that was the stereo department. So I had always heard that if you got a job there during the holiday season, and this was like October of 1981, so this was the start of the holiday season in October of 81. But if you could, and if they needed extra help, they would keep you on after the holiday season, and that's what I was hoping for there. So there was a scraggity strategy that I had in mind, right, for working at A&S. That couldn't happen at Blimpies. Blimpies was just Blimpies, and that was it. But I really kind of didn't care in the big picture because Chace was on the wings, and Chace was going to be the next big damn thing. So I thought, we know how that goes, and if you don't know, listen to the last 4 episodes and you'll find out. All right, so I go up to A&S. I meet with Mrs. May. That's a little tongue twister. I meet with Mrs. May. And she takes me through the whole store. I meet Bobby, I meet Nancy, Marge Marcelletta, Maria, all these people working in the little small fur vault area where I was going to be working for the holiday season of 1981. I'm stoked. I'm psyched. I think I made they had just raised the minimum wage here in New York State from like $1.50 to like $5. So I was making $5 an hour, I think it was, somewhere in that ballpark. It was a joke. I think each paycheck was about $150 each paycheck. For a 19-year-old, I was doing pretty decent, I guess. But be that as it may, I got the job. I worked there the entire, holiday season, and all is good. When we come to November, I ask Mrs. May if she can keep me on, because Mrs. May actually managed fur vault and small electronics in the back. Another gentleman by the name of Tom Rakers, he managed the stereo section, right? Okay. So Mrs. May said, I can't keep you on here, but I do need some extra help in the back in small electronics. So I'm like, okay, cool. Small electronics comes along, 1982 rolls in, because this was 81 when I got the fur vault. 82 rolls in, so I work in electronics, more electronics from I guess, January of 1982. I guess all the way up to sometime in late 82 or maybe early 83. I don't remember the transition, and it's kind of irrelevant to the story here, right? But either way, they decided to close small electronics down. I used to love working back there because it was with electric shavers and little typewriters and little small electronic doodads that people use, electronic toothbrushes, little car radar machines. It was a really cool little place to work because well, look around me, I'm an electronics freak. And that started way back even before those days, the A&S days, watching my grandfather build his huge stereo cabinet, stereo system. He was a music enthusiast, my dad's father, my grandfather, obviously. And so I'm like, okay, fine. So they're gonna close small electronics down. At the same time they were closing that down, help was needed in the stereo department. Okay, I'm psyched now. So Mrs. May talks to Tom Rakers, the manager of the stereo department, and gets him to bring me in. Okay, I've seen David around. We'll bring him in, no problem. So Tom brings me in. All is good. By this time, this is sometime in 83 at this point, right? Okay. So I'm in stereo department doing my stereo thing. They are big, all y'all know about the big stereo racks back in those days, right? The stereo racks. And you had the Pioneer, you had Onkyo, you had Fisher, which for those of you who had Fisher, I'm here to tell you, Fisher was the cheapest, crappiest stereo systems ever made. If you ever bought one, I'm sorry to hear that, but Fisher, and don't try to tell me how great your Fisher system was. Fisher systems suck. Kenwood, Pioneer, Techniques, Sony, those were the brands that were the hot brands back in those days for those big giant rack systems. Even if your Fisher sounded good, I'm here to tell you, it wasn't a cool thing. Anyway, let me rewind a minute. So I'm working in stereos, and I'm doing my thing. I'm really psyched out now because Chace is doing this thing. I got this cool job. I'm in the stereo department. The guy who was the floor manager in the stereo department, a guy named John, he was the floor manager in the stereo department at the time. And he resigned. And when he resigned, Tom Rakers promoted me to the floor manager. Now I'm really psyched. This is like my first job as a manager. I'm super psyched. So now I control the stock room, the big stock rooms in the back, the small stock room on the floor, the whole sales floor, the other sales reps that come in on the floor, the cash register, teach people how to do the cashier, how to cash out, how to cash the money in. Teaching folks, putting up displays, the whole 9 yards. That's Davey D's gig, and I'm happy. I'm cool with it, right? And I'm selling stuff. I learned how to sell when I began to learn how to sell on that floor, which is really good because learning how to sell and sell yourself, and even now selling my music and products and things that I do now, it's all a part of selling. And that whole stuff started with, well, first with my dad, because he was in sales and he owned a company that did sales, and then I got the job at A&S. So I was always in and around sales most of my younger years in my adolescence, from 1973 when my father, 72, 71 when my father opened his first store. I worked with him down there when I was like 9, 10 years old, up until the A&S gig, which I had from 1981 until 1986, I was at A&S. Okay, fine. All's good. So I'm doing all this stuff at A&S, and we had to wear a pair of dress slacks and a shirt with a collar and a tie, okay? And it's all good. And I'm helping customers. But this one day, I know, long story short, too late, I know, but I got to tell all the beginning stuff leading up to the main story. But I'm here now, all right? I'm here at the main story now. So here we go. So I've never been good at buying clothing for myself. I will go out and I will purchase something for this studio or something for my computer or other things like that, or a model rocket or a plane. I will buy those things way before I buy myself a pair of underwear, a pair of socks, a shirt, a t-shirt, or a new pair of pants. I mean, I'm better at it now, but back then it was really bad. So I was still wearing clothes. By this time, 1983, I was 21, but I was still wearing clothes from when I was like 18, 19. stuff like that, because they still fit. So I thought, and so I'd wear them. My shoes were all worn out and all that kind of stuff. No wonder why girls didn't really like me too much back in those days, because I was a bum. I was bumming it, right? All right. So I put on this pair of pants that I should not have put on. And it was a pair of pants that I remember buying on Jamaica Avenue, I believe, in 1979. How old was I in 1979? August of 1979, I turned 17. Fast forward to 1983, I'm 21. 17, 18, 19, 20. I'm wearing a pair of pants that's 4 years old. And they were tight. I never liked wearing tight pants because I just didn't. But I would buy a pair of bass strings before I'd buy a pair of pants. So I did that. I bought a pair of bass strings, and I didn't have much money to buy pants. I didn't like trying on clothes. It reminded me of when I was a child, going to the mall, Roosevelt Field Mall, with my mother and my siblings, and my mother buying us clothes. And my mother would be in the malls all day buying the four of us. It was an all-day project, buying 4 children, 4 sons and a daughter, clothing. And I hated it. So we were there all day and had to try, David, try these pants on, try those pants on, try this on. Mark, you try on this. Anthony, put on this. Chris, go to the girls section, try this. And it was an all-day thing, and I hated it. So the thought of me going to, I'm working at a store called A&S, a department store that had a men's department. Right about here is where I take a moment to pause from this episode to encourage you to check out my website, davidknightcompose.com. There, you can see more of my history, listen to my music, read articles I've written, check out my hobbies, watch my videos and live streams. And after all of that, you're going to want to take a second and sign up for my email list, because I genuinely want to share everything about me with you. All right? It says davidknightcompose.com. Okay, let's get back to the show now. Peace. I had full run of buying whatever I wanted in that store, and I got discounts, okay? And those of you who've worked in those type of stores, and it still happens today, you get your discounts. But I would not buy myself a pair of pants. So I put on these pair of pants that I bought from Jamaica Avenue in 1979, and they were a little tight. And I didn't like tight pants because I didn't like all of that bulge in the front that other guys, especially musicians back in those days, they would stuff socks down their pants on gigs and plays to make it look like they had like a really big one and stuff. I wasn't into all of that. Mike, I got an ego, but it's a little different. It wasn't that kind of ego for me. So I didn't like that. But these pants were tight. So I put on these pair of pants. They were tight. They were tight. They were tight around the spot, man, around my junk. They were tight, right? But I put them on any damn way. And I put on a shirt that was long enough to cover that up, right? So nobody could see that. I'm good. I go to work, and as I go to work, I am showing people stereo systems and all this kind of stuff, and doing my work on the floor and helping the other sales associates and stuff work and do their thing. And these pants, I'm pulling wedgies out my butt all day, pulling my pants down all day, pulling it out from between my legs all day because it was cutting my nuts in half, to be quite blank. It was just horrible, right? Whatever. So this one woman walks on the floor. Hi, sir. I'm looking for a stereo system. She must have been probably a little younger than what I am now, but I may have been so young, I just thought that she was a lot older. But in my mind, it was a white woman, and she had dirty blonde hair, heavy set, a little overweight, real cool, beautiful woman, real cool, beautiful spirit, and she wanted to buy a rack system. And I think she had asthma because she always had an inhaler. I think she had asthma also. So as we were talking, she was always inhaling with her inhaler, right? Okay. I'm taking her around the floor, showing her this system, showing her that system. Well, how much do you want to spend? What's your budget like? What's this? What do you want? Do you want reverse cassette deck? Do you want a dual cassette deck? What kind of turntable do you want? How much power do you need? How much space you have in your living room? Do you want larger speakers, smaller speakers? You want it to be a bookshelf unit. I remember all this crap. Damn. So I'm qualifying the customer to find out exactly, what she needs and what her things are. I said, okay, well, let me do this. Let me get a cassette and I will play something for you so you can begin to hear what the system sounds like. Oh, Dave, that would be awesome if you can do that. So I go behind the counter and I get one of my cassettes out. Of course, it was the cassette that you guys heard last month, the Chace songs, What You Gonna Do For Me and Going Off, because they were just pristine recordings at the time. We had just finished recording them. So they were pristine. There was no hissing. There was nothing. They were just popping. They were just bulge speakers out. I mean, it just sounded great on those systems back then. So I got the cassette. I said, okay, miss, I forgot her name at this point. And so I got a tape. This is a tape of my band. The name of my band is called Chace, but it's a really cool recording. I'm gonna play this for you. Let you check out the system, and you let me know what you think. And we can play this tape in different systems and see what you like, and then maybe you can make a choice that way. Oh, that would be lovely, Dave. Let's do it. I said, okay. So I opened the door. The rack system had a glass door, so I pop open the glass door, and I squat down to put the tape in the cassette bay, in the cassette player. When I squat down, my pants went like, for real. My pants. You remember the poppin' fresh dough when you took it and you hit it on the counter and it said poof, like that, and the dough would pop out and you make your crescent rolls. It was really cool as a kid, and you make little crescent rolls. Well, that's what that was like. When I squatted down, it was like somebody had taken me and just said poof, and my pants split literally in a crescent from the top of my butt all the way through, all the way under and up. A gaping, like this gaping hole, right? And she goes, "Did you just split your pants?" I said, mm-hmm, I did. She said, "Oh my God, I heard that." I was like, I felt it because it got very drafty down there. And she laughed like hell. I laughed like hell too. I was like, okay. She goes, "What you gonna do?" I said, "I don't know because I don't have another pair of pants here." And I said, "There's a gaping hole right now between my legs. And give me a minute." She said, "Okay, no problem." I said, "Look at the floor." So I turned her over to one of my co-workers. I said, I forgot who the hell it was. I turned to one of the co-workers and said, "Can you work with her? Because I just split my pants damn near in two. I gotta go," right? So now I'm thinking, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Well, go downstairs, Dave, to the men's department and buy yourself a new pair of pants. That's the logical thing to do. But Dave Knight don't think that way. I'm stupid. He don't think like that. He's thinking, I gotta go home and change my pants. Why? I don't know. Now, I don't want to go home because I'm at work. I had maybe been 2 hours into my shift. Maybe 2 hours into my shift when this happened, okay? And I'm walking around and between my legs just flapping. I mean, God, it was this huge hole. All you saw was tidy whities. If you looked under there, that was about it, right? And I said, okay, cool. You don't want to go home. You don't really want to go downstairs. And you don't really have the money to go downstairs and buy some new pair of pants. What you gonna do? Think, Knight. Think. I said, oh, first storage. The first storage. Let me go back there and see if they can do something for me in the first storage, because what they used to also hem and tailor the furs and all the coats. And if a fur had a damage, not Marge Marcelletta. There was another woman, a beautiful older Italian woman. She must have been probably in her early 70s. I want to say her name was Maria. But she was an old, short Italian woman. I mean, a stereotypical that you see on TV, grandmother type Italian woman, just heart of gold, had her glasses on with the with the string and stuff to hold it down. She looked and she put it down, and she had this thick Italian accent. And when I used to work back there, when I first started working there, I used to mess with her all the time because I just thought she was so cute and so small and so tiny, and just, and her voice, I could hardly understand what she was saying with the heavy Italian accent, this and that. And so I said, let me go back there and see if Mrs. May can help me. So I go back there, and Maria is back there. I believe Marge is back there. Mrs. May is back there. Nancy's back there. Bobby's back there. Now, Nancy and Bobby at that time, they must have been in their early 30s, because I was in my early 20s. I think they were about 10, 11 years older than me at the time, right? They were also a couple. They actually ended up getting married, believe it or not. And they were all back there. So I walked back there. I used to go back there and visit. Every now and then I would go back there and visit. Hi, Mrs. May, and just drive them nuts, because that's what I used to do back in those days. Drive people crazy, right? So I'm going back there, and I walk back there, and I open the door, the 2 swinging doors, open the door, and I walk back. I said, hi, Mrs. May. Oh, David, how are you? How are you making out the stereos? You still do it? You behaving? Yes, I'm behaving, Mrs. May. I said, but look. Whoosh. And I opened my legs, and this gap, big gate. Oh my, David, close that up. So it was hilarious. I had no shame. I had no shame back in those days. I didn't care, because I'm just David. That's how I thought. I'm just this young kid doing my thing, messing with people, having fun. And all the women go, oh my God. What happened? I said, well, look, you can see what happened. So I opened my legs and I pulled the hole even wider open. It was already about 4 or 5 inches wide, split open. And I held it open more. I didn't care, because I had on my lovely tidy whities and there was nothing for them to see other than that. So I wasn't ashamed. It wasn't a big deal, right? So I do this, and they go, wow, how you do that? I was like, well, I went to show a lady a stereo system, and I squatted down, and they just went poof, like the Pillsbury poppin' fresh dough crescent roll box when you hit it on the side of the counter. That's what happened, right? Oh my, what do you want to do? I said, well, I need to have it fixed. I said, Maria, can you stitch it up for me? Now, I'm young. I'm not ashamed. I don't care. I'm good. She's an older woman, and old folks, they have no shame, no nothing. She goes, let me see. She takes her hand, put her hand between my legs, and she starts stretching it open and stuff like that. And all the other women are freaking the hell out. Oh my God. She doesn't care, because she ain't ashamed, and I'm cool. I'm like, nah, it's good. So she's looking at the hole and seeing if she can stitch it up and everything. And they are all freaking out. And me, this young dude, 21 years old, and this older woman who don't give a damn, she don't give a damn either. Let me see. And we're going, and she says, take them off. She goes, you take it with her Italian accent, take them off. I can fix it. I said, you sure? She goes, yeah. I said, okay. So Mrs. May goes, wait. You are not going to walk around here in your underwear, David. So she calls Nancy. Nancy, come up front. So Nancy comes up front, and she goes, Nancy, Dave has a gaping hole in between his legs and his pants. He ripped his pants open. Can you get this young man a fur coat so he can put it on? Yeah. So Nancy goes in the back, and she grabs the fur coat, and she gives me the fur coat. I put the fur coat on. I take off my pants, and I hand them to Maria. Here you go, Maria. Take my pants. You may have them, right? Now, I'm walking around the fur storage with this fur coat on, long length fur coat on, and it's like, I'm feeling a bit pimpish. Just a little bit pimpish, and I'm not a pimp, and I don't really vibe with pimps, but I was feeling a little pimpish, like, here's my fur coat, I'm looking in the mirror, this looks kind of nice on me, it kind of flows, kind of cool. And Maria is just stitching away on my pants and getting my pants and stuff together for me, and I'm sitting down now, having conversations with Marge and with Mrs. May as she stitches up my pants, and I'm sitting there with this damn coat on, and it's falling off my legs. And Mrs. May, David, will you please pull the coat, the fur coat, back up over your? Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. May. And I pull it back over my legs and stuff. I'm cracking up. I mean, at this time, I was having such a good time back there with this whole thing, because to me it was just fun. It was just a fun moment in my life, a fun time in my life. And to watch these old ladies freak out because I had this gaping hole between my legs, you know, from my pants splitting open, to me was just fun. I guess some people wouldn't see it that way, but to me it was just freaking fun. So Maria sewed up my pants, and what she did is she let some of the hem out. She left some of the stuff out, I guess. And she said, "Here you go, try them on." So I grabbed the pants and I tried them on, and they fit. It was a perfect fit because she let them out a little bit, so they weren't tight anymore. I guess I got a few more years out of them, out of those pants. And I gave them back the fur coat, and that was the end of my ass being out all day long. You know, that was the end of it. But I wanted to share that story with y'all because to me, it's funny. It's just a funny stuff, and I hope all y'all find it as funny as well. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for having a quick laugh with me. Lord, we are working behind the scenes, and I know you're going to hear this name quite a bit coming up in the coming weeks and months. Her name is Shanika. Shanika is my left and right hand man, or I should say woman. She has been tremendous, helping me behind the scenes, getting things done, pulling things together, and we've been working like crazy. We just had a listening session with some fans a few weeks ago to listen to just demos and different songs and stuff to put out in 2025, because all the 2024 stuff is done and we're putting it all together now to get it all out and get it all going. So we're starting to work on, I should say early next year, I'll begin working on all the 2025 stuff, get those things together to put out for 2025. So we're chugging along. I know it's been a minute since I put out anything. Boy, I've gone through a lot, and I'm going to begin to unfold and bring you into the circle of what I've been going through, I'm going to say, since 2020, 2021, 2022, up until present day. It's been really something, and boy, it's a bit. So I'm going to get out of here. If you haven't signed up for the email list, do so. Go to davidknightcompose.com and just sign up on the email list, because Shanika and I are going to be doing more things and reaching out to fans. And the more those who are on the email list, we're going to go to the folks on the email list first. So if you're only with me on Facebook, and you guys know I engage a lot on Facebook, that's fine. But when it comes to doing special things and one-on-one things with me, I do it through the email list. And I would love to get as many people on that list and as many people doing things with me off of Facebook as possible, as much as possible. I'm stretching out more now to YouTube. As you know, this episode and many other episodes, previous episodes are now on YouTube as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment on YouTube. It's also on Facebook as well, Instagram, and I'm also on TikTok, not active, just kind of watching it, but I'm going to be growing TikTok as well. TikTok is really an awesome platform. Despite what you hear in the media, it's really an awesome platform because the U.S. government can't censor it. So people come out there and they tell the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. But that's another story. As I begin to release music and release songs, it's going to be on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Those are going to be all of my social media platforms that I go to, with a focus on Facebook, right? And the second focus will probably be, believe it or not, on TikTok. Not really a big fan of Instagram, though. My daughter and my wife, you gotta go to Instagram. I just something about Instagram that it feels small to me. As huge as it is, it feels small to me, right? But it's all good. I think that's a wrap. I think I'm gonna close this out again on piano. All right. One of the songs I'm releasing next year is called Gentle, and it's nothing but a piano concerto, I believe, if I remember some of my orchestration in classical musical terms, it's been about 42 years. But it's just an instrumental called Gentle that's going to come out. We got like 4 or 5 songs coming out next year, and they're all done. They're all done, and Shanika and I are just getting them together on the back end to release this stuff. So get ready. We're going to start putting out stuff. Anyway, y'all just hang in there, stick in there with me. Follow me on social media. Definitely sign up to the mailing list, and I'm going to really begin to crank out stuff more and more as we move forward. All right. I hope you love this story. I hope it gave you a good laugh as much as it did. Not only do I have a good time telling this story because it still makes me laugh, 40 years later, it was 40 years ago, wow. 40 years later, it still makes me laugh. But it made me laugh that day. I have always been one to be able to laugh at myself. Though I can say over the last several years, it's been a bit more challenging, but I'm going back to that person to laugh at myself, because if we can't laugh at ourselves, that's pretty bad. And I used to love laughing at myself for so many decades, right? And that was one of those stories where I just laughed at myself and I made everybody else laugh about it, because most people, if they have if their pants split between their legs, most people, men and women, freak the hell out. Oh my God, and I'm so embarrassed, and I'm so ashamed. I didn't feel that way, not at all. It was funny as hell to me, and I had a good time with it, and I had a good time with the ladies in the back, and I still got it all resolved at the same time. Anyway, let me get up out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day or the evening when you listen to this, and just enjoy. Much love to everybody. As my grandmother would say, keep on living, night out.